Greetings to all colleagues, friends across higher education around the world. It is great to have you with us today. I'd like to, first of all, thank Ramu Damodaran, without whom this session and special occasion would not be possible. I would like to, in particular, thank Dr. Saglamer, Sir Anand, Dr. Khan, and other distinguished speakers who are joining us today. At the heart of the International Association of University Presidents is people. We have had associations of universities before, and more will come, just as we have had associations representing the entities that bring together leaders in chosen professions. But IAUP was and is more than summoning entities. It brings together the leaders of those entities, women and men, who command the heights of intellectual integrity and scholarship, but who are, in the end, human beings. It is that personal connection that helps unite the institutions we lead in a common cause. In the words of our mission statement, we provide an active global network and forum specifically for the heads of universities, specifically for people. This is why the theme of the 2023 International Day of Education resonates with us so vividly. All of us have invested our careers in institutions, in disciplines, in discoveries. We have been fortunate to do so because someone, somewhere, at some time, invested in us. At moments, we ourselves may have been the investors, and we continue to be so, investing in our students, our faculties, our collaborative projects with each other. Today, we will explore education as an investment in people from different perspectives, from those women rectors in Europe to leaders of universities in Asia and the Pacific, to the energetic young women and men who see themselves and prove to be global citizens. From education that empowers women to further the health of their communities, to education that imagines and fosters peace, to education about the United Nations itself. From the investment in their people made by the world's largest economies, accounting for 80% of the gross product created by 2/3 of the world population, to the investment in ourselves and in each other that IAUP represents. Thank you for joining us for what promises to be a very rich conversation, well worth the investment of your time. Thank you again. Best wishes to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fernando. That was Dr. Fernando Leon Garcia, the president of the International Association of University Presidents and of the CITES University in Mexico. And as we launched this program, as Fernando mentioned, he spoke about the grouping of countries which accounts for 85% of the global GDP, 75% of world trade, and about 2/3 of the world's population, the group that we know for the last several years as G20. And the G20 this year, 2023, is being chaired by India, whose Prime Minister Narendra Modi called it a people's movement, which really resonates with the theme of our webinar today of investing in people. And we are absolutely privileged and delighted to have with us Amitabh Kant, who is the G20 Sherpa for India, and who has, throughout his career, worked on imaginative projects investing in people as the Chief Executive Officer of the National Institute for Transforming India, the Niti Aayog, to a range of other positions, including having created the idea of aspirational districts in India, where you take a small administrative unit and encourage it to aspire to be far more than it is at the moment, and in that process, bring this relatively underdeveloped district into the forefront of the national economy and social progress. Amitabh, the floor is yours. Mike Amitabh, sorry. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Ramu. Extremely thankful to you for inviting me to speak on investing in people on this very unique occasion. So I've long believed that development of societies is linked with improvement in socioeconomic outcomes of individuals. These include access to high quality healthcare, education, mobility, and aspirational jobs. The role of education is the key driver of development. It's an enabler for empowerment and a very effective tool for the attainment of people's aspiration. And therefore, the present crisis is, to my mind, the post-COVID era is having a very disproportionate adverse impact on the socio-economic outcomes, especially for the developing countries. The SDG report for 2022 has highlighted that even in the year 2021, almost about 147 million children missed out on education. About 24 million learners may never return to school to continue their learning. Over 160 million children are employed in actually child labor worldwide, and 6 out of 10 children globally are not achieving minimum proficiency levels in reading and mathematics. And therefore, my belief is that investing in people for a better future is extremely relevant, but it is extremely urgent for all of us. Our own experience on both learning outcomes and health outcomes, and I'm a great believer based on our own implementation of the aspirational district program in 112 of the most backward districts of India. And we didn't call them backward, we call them the aspirational districts. And we worked on outcomes, and we actually used real-time data to monitor and put out that data in public domain. And while these are slow-moving indicators, it's very, very important to focus on enhancing learning outcomes and health outcomes. And my view is that it's very critical to constantly use technology to leapfrog, to use data for development, and to create a sense of competition amongst districts. We constantly rank districts, and on the basis of this, we saw huge improvement month by month, quarter by quarter, year by year on both learning and health outcomes, and therefore on basic improvement on socioeconomic indicators in the districts. Looking at the road ahead, I think accelerated growth in innovation in the 21st century is resulting in the evolution of skills in the economic job market globally. In 2023, 25% of the workforce held jobs that did not exist previously. In one of its studies, McKinsey has suggested that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet. And therefore, globally, skill gaps continue to be high as in-demand skills across jobs are constantly changing, they're constantly evolving. The pace of change in learning and employment environments are leading to learners being expected to learn in the moment using technology. And this is very critical. And as a result of this, the ability to gain new knowledge is emerging to be more valuable than the knowledge itself. And therefore, you have to constantly learn, constantly evolve, constantly gain new skills. Now, during India's G20 presidency, we consider investing in people as our top priority. Special focus is being given to promoting blended learning, upskilling on digital skills, promoting lifelong learning in the context of future of jobs, and mapping skill gaps. Our view is that we want to bring leading G20 economies to prioritize investment in people for solving global developmental challenges. It's important to say this because today, 1/3 of the world is facing a huge crisis of recession, and we are midway through the 2030 SDG goals. Instead of progressing, we have regressed due to COVID. I feel that this G20 presidency is very critical to accelerate the progress in sustainable development goals. India is very uniquely positioned with its demographic potential for the coming decade. Soon its population will actually surpass China. It'll have the median age range of 28 to about 35 years till 2050. The share of the working age population, that is 20 to 59, is expected to hit 59%, giving great potential for actually driving accelerated growth. In the next 25 years, 1 in 5 working age group persons will be actually living in India, 1 in 5. And therefore, India will be the largest contributor to the global workforce. This means investment in our future generation is absolutely critical and will help India to leapfrog into the talent powerhouse of the world. Now, commitment to top-class education and investment in skills of its people is a top priority for all of us in India. And to reap the full benefit of the demographic dividend, we are reforming education and learning outcomes at all levels. And that is what the new education policy of India envisages. From early childhood education to higher education to adult learning and lifelong learning. We have put forth our country's aspirations and directions for the coming decade in a very visionary new education policy in 2020. At school level, changes in curriculum and pedagogy for a better equipping students with futuristic or STEM skills are being undertaken. At teachers level, special focus is being given to upskilling and reskilling teachers to be absolutely competent for the 21st century. We are giving very special focus on providing equitable and inclusive education for the underprivileged so as to ensure that no one is left behind. And we are pushing for numeracy in all schools going children by 2025. During the pandemic, India converted the challenges of learning and mobility into opportunities to advance use of digital public goods. And one of which, 2 of the very powerful apps, Diksha and Swayam, were used to provide technical education to children using technology. The power of digital public infrastructure which India has built up is transformative, it's scalable, it's adaptable. And this has led to a significant technological leapfrogging. We will take all our learnings from foundational learning, digital skilling, and lifelong learning to be a part of India's G20 presidency so that our experiences can be shared with other countries and the experiences of other countries can be shared with us. And our objective will be to evolve a common policy framework. The education working group of G20 will focus on investing in people to bridge both foundational and addressing the skills gaps. The priority areas for us are foundational literacy and numeracy through blended learning, building capacities, promoting lifelong learning, and making tech-enabled learning more inclusive, qualitative, and collaborative at every level. Our G20 presidency will take forward the vision of an earlier declaration of transforming lives through education, recognizing the important role of education as the main driver of development and for achieving the SDGs. To our mind, the world needs to get together to make a difference to the lives of citizens by accelerating the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. This is a unique moment and the world must come together to accelerate progress. And that is the way we'll invest in people. We will make 2023 and India's presidency of G20 a platform for accelerating our investment in education, for making our children, adolescent, and adult learners job ready, resilient, and fully prepared for the coming years. And that is the best way we can invest in people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amitav. Thank you so much. And thank you for that clarion call for the world to come together. I think those of us who've been associated with education directly or indirectly have always grappled with the question of how much state involvement should there be in education? How much should be left to academics and institutions alone? But I think you've made a very persuasive case about the importance of the state in setting ambitions, setting targets, and helping people through investment realize them. And the other major player, of course, in the idea of constructive education is civil society and the academic sector. And it's my privilege now to invite the president of the European Women Rectors Association, Gulshan Saglamar, who is a valued and cherished friend, the former president of Istanbul Technical University, and a member of the executive board of the IUP. And her work in creating housing and through architectural design and infrastructure has, in a sense, added to the element that Amitav mentioned of education for a social purpose, where you actually see literally concrete results of the learning that people acquire and the teaching that is imparted to them. Gulshan?
Yes, dear colleagues, it is a great pleasure for me to join you. You hear me, aren't you? Okay.
Yes.
It's a great pleasure for me to join you this evening, although you are maybe in the morning hours now. So good morning and good evening to all of you. I would like to focus on the subject area at micro level. Previous distinguished speaker was talking about macro level, but I'm coming from a technical university. I have the things to be realized in a concrete way throughout my life. So that makes me to speak to focus on micro level to make my ideas tangible. I would like to share my thoughts and experiences on investing in people from the point of view of a person who spent her life for higher education and research, led research, design teams, educational groups, together with one of the oldest technical university in the world at different levels, including 8 years being director of ITU. If you are looking forward to investing and developing an organization according to changes, then we have to have well-developed human resources open to changes, enough funding opportunities, and well-established juridical environment. I would like to focus on the first one, human resources. I believe that it has three main components: recruiting right people, investing in people, providing work-life balance. In all these areas, leadership plays a crucial role. If our main theme is investing in people, it is for sure that we are one of the main providers as professionals in education and research areas who are teachers, professors, researchers, etc. It's for sure that leaders play a crucial role in investing people in their organizations by defining the needs and employing human resources development providers, again, from academia or nowadays from practice as well. One of the most important features of leadership is to establish a sound and well-structured group to do the job in an excellent way. We should only look at the candidates, whether they are knowledgeable and have sound experience and ideas in the field, but also, as Joanne Westenberg mentioned, we should be looking for some other features. When push comes to shove, those are the people who will keep trying a new approach or a new angle, pushing, learning, and building until they have something that sticks. As a second step, we have another important issue, that is how to invest in people according to changing needs and environment. It's for sure that providing opportunities to update their knowledge and skills to do the job in a better way as a priority. On the other hand, giving a kind of freedom and responsibility to a group of people to make them to develop their own creative skills for further contributions to problems that they face has a great importance. Defining emerging problems in a creative way is the half of the solution itself. Therefore, problem solvers should not be limited by their experiences in their areas, but also be able to extend their solution spaces and horizons by borrowing solutions from different cases and areas. They should also feel that their personal contributions will be important for the development of their organization, and there will be a kind of spiritual link between the leader and the team members and organization itself. Therefore, it's essential for the organization to take care about extending the creative capacity of its members. The last issue was work-life balance, which the last one which sometimes overlooked in many organizations is providing better opportunities for bettering lives of the team members in order to increase their satisfaction of being with you in the organization. That is another important issue which creates efficiently very strong sense of belonging. All three items are related to our discussion today, and I would like to share directly my own experience as director of Istanbul Technical University during my 8-year mandate. First of all, I had a chance to design my core group, but my task was to develop the existing human resources and recruiting new talents and creating a well-connected and devoted community in the university who are happy to be there and motivated to develop themselves to remove the barriers that we have had before harnessing our developments. I had 3 vice rectors, 20 young researchers. Those are assistant professors, associate professors with PhDs, for designing and implementing comprehensive reforms to restructure the university in terms of education, research, innovation triangle, according to the strategic plan that we developed in advance. This small team was a strong seed group to realize the strategic plan, but in fact, my team was the whole university staff and students. We organized many forums and focus group meetings across the university to discuss the strategic plan with all the stakeholders. The main consensus was strategic plan is okay, but we need funding. Where this funding will come from? That was the main question, of course. The strategic plan was owned and accepted by the university and implementation started. I would like to inform you on the key points. First of all, we had the right people with us to realize our dreams in order to secure the continuous improvement and developments, but there was a need for investments. We have been very lucky to have dedicated alumni to develop their universities by allocating extensive resources to the projects that we developed. We have managed to get enough funding from alumni and state as well. We have realized extensive reforms in education, research, and innovation. University instructions converted into 2 languages, Turkish, English. We restructured language school with 1/3 English native speakers, teachers from USA, paid by the University Foundation. And this was the recruiting right people for the job. More than 1/3 of the young academic staff sent abroad up to 1 year for the improvement of their foreign languages and establishing links with their colleagues abroad. This was a kind of investing in people. And then increasing campus housing capacity for academic staff, giving priority for single mothers, provided in-campus housing for foreign teachers as well. This is work-life balance. Establishment of K-12 schools for the university staff children to keep the university community in comfort as they obtained a sound and well-organized schools for their children in their campus. Again, work-life balance. Many more projects were created, new criteria and new appointment processes designed and implemented to prevent unconscious bias, especially towards women academics. Investing people, increasing the budget for international activities, providing financial support for international publications. We upgraded all the educational and research environment, provided extensive dorm capacity to house students in such a large metropolitan area of Istanbul. Work-life balance again. Postgraduate education restructured and student number went up from 5,500 to 7,500. All undergraduate programs restructured and the number of undergraduate student number decreased from 17,500 to 11,500 to make the university more focused on research and innovation. Research budget as a summary, tenfold, state budget threefold, number of research projects threefold, number of published papers twofold, women professors ratio went up from 16% to 29% in 8-year time. Arı Technocity was established for research and innovation, now with over 300 research and development and innovation companies we have in our campus. We had 1/3 of the members of Turkish Academy of Sciences in Istanbul Technical University. Last words. We had a well-structured strategic plan open to new adjustments throughout the years. Academic and administrative staff were very enthusiastic about the new developments as they were also having new opportunities to develop themselves. We are able to upgrade all the research and education environment to achieve continuous improvement where academic students, staff were very proud of being a member of ITU community. Dear colleagues, when leadership provides opportunities together with funding and more advanced academic and educational systems and environment for students and academic staff to develop themselves, they become more engaged and more enthusiastic to achieve more and better. That was the great enjoyment in my life to experience all these developments in 8-year time. I would like to finalize my presentation with a quotation from Joan Westenberg again. The right people are the ones who come up with a new way of living, working, doing, or being, and then put in the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears needed to create that elusive version one. Thank you very much. This at micro level, the subject area, that's what I perceived. So it is maybe as a scale may not be suitable for the rest of the speakers, but I am filling a certain corner now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gulshan, Dr. Saglamer, and you fill that corner very, very well. In fact, what you spoke of actually reminded me of the reference that Amitabh Kant had before you about aspirational districts, where you have created a community within the university, a self-sustaining community that looks after its own members. And in your wonderful phrase, the team is not a select number, it's every one of its members. And the idea, again, which is true of the aspirational districts or any entity, that you have to develop existing human resources. It's not just a question of imparting to human beings new skills or new talents and then expecting them to contribute. Develop what you already have. And that's, I think, also one of the main motives behind the great spirit of contemporary education of entrepreneurship. And I'm delighted that we have one of the leading exemplars of leading entrepreneurship, particularly in South Asia, Dr. Mohammad Sabur Khan, who is the incoming, or is the current president of the Association of Universities of Asia and the Pacific. And that geographical region, if I may, Gulshan, also brings to mind your reference of a spiritual link between the leader and team members, because virtually all the universities I've been privileged to visit in Asia and the Pacific do have that elusive spiritual component to them. It's not necessarily religion or faith-based, but there is a sense of spirit, if I may say so, in ITU as well. So Dr. Sabur Khan has been keen and avid in investing in people through entrepreneurship. He's the former president of the Bangladesh Computer Samiti and erstwhile president of the Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And he is the chairman of the Daffodil International University, which has been a long-standing member of IUP. Sabur Sahib, Dr. Khan.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramu. Thank you, Ramuda, and thank you for organizing this event, considering the International Education Day. And thank you, IUAP. And of course, few of the discussion, and you also mentioned that nowadays, I think investing to the people, that one of the key components for the education sector should be that to develop the entrepreneurial activities. And entrepreneurial mindset students come to the forward, and they should get a lot of the facility from the university. And you'll be happy to know that from 2013, we started the first Bangladesh university. And if I'm not wrong, it is the first Southeast Asia also university where we started the full bachelor's of honors course for targeting the entrepreneurship. So we also set up the innovation lab for bringing the innovative minded people, because as you know, the Amitabh Khan is also mentioned that 2030, there will be a lot of the new job and new career will be coming, which still we did not identify as per the World Economic Forum. And definitely Rector Gulshan is also mentioned that you see a lot of cases, the people, investment in the people and the university alumni. And that means the university alumni is also feeling confident to invest to the university. That is one of the good confidence, I should say, the people who also passed from the university, they are coming and they are looking after the university. It's called as investment to the people, giving the better result in the long run. So, of course, as we consider the technological development is going very fast, and we do not know what should be the next technology coming. I hope that a lot of cases, you know, the AI-based technologies now is a big threat to all of the big giant from nowadays. So again, the robot and other component is coming nowadays. And of course, again, the people are behind all of this development, all of this innovation. I think we cannot avoid the people. So investment of the people should be the key criteria, as everyone is also agreed, and as a university authority, or as we are also involved in the university, we must agree that investment in the population should be the key criteria. And again, if we consider the 10 years or 15 years back, consider the China and India and a lot of the populated country, even in Bangladesh is also in the same scenario. You see, earlier we were not much economically, we are so much developed. But now considering the population, I'm sure that China is now one of the big threat in the whole world, and India is also growing very fast due to cause of this population, because investing in the population. You see, before 1971, when Bangladesh has got the independent, I think our literacy rate was only 10% or 12%. But now you see it's going to the almost very close to 70% or 75%. So that means the investment in the population is giving the benefit. In Bangladesh now, it was the underdeveloped, it was a developing country, but it is now, I think after 4 years, we'll be going to the developed country. So again, you see, in population, people's concept and the education concept, what we now telling in every time, the reboot, rethink, relearning, right? Because of course, just today morning, I read one of the article by the Japan Prime Minister. Japan Prime Minister, I think that he already expressed in his parliament that Japan will be maybe going to be one of the poor countries very soon. He predict that the way Japan is moving, the population is declining. So he told that how can we invest to the people? Because you know, the community of the Japan, there is a less interest to get married. They have the less interest to give the new birth of the population. So that's why PM is already predicted that please, you have to be careful. If you're not moving to the front line and giving the more generation, I think it will be very problem for Japan, because all of you know that technological development, Japan is one of the best countries still yet. So, but again, due to cause of this investment of the people, I think they already predicted they will be in the problem. So again, Amitabh Khan is already mentioned that sharing the best practices to reduce the skill gap. I think it's a very good intention that India is already playing a very good role, especially considering the IT. Why India is coming very quickly as a developed country, because one of the key reason is also IT, that using the people's mindset and people talents and innovation in the proper way. So if we invest people, it will give the long run result, no doubt. A lot of cases, of course, it is also, if we consider, it is a risk free, because if we invest to the people, I think considering the all other investment, if we go to the infrastructure, if we go to the business and everything, investing in the peoples is completely, I should say that it's a completely risk-free. It's giving the benefit, no doubt. And investing in ideas is sometimes is risky, because maybe the idea going to be the wrong, maybe idea may not falling down in the long run. We know that the once upon a time, Nokia was the key giant in the mobile industry. But you see, but now I think a lot of people may forget, young generation do not know about the Nokia. Young generation forget about the Ericsson. Young generation forget the, that a lot of cases, Motorola, they already forget it. BlackBerry, they already forget it. Because why? Because in technological and people's investment or technological investment, they were not very much focused. So that is why I should say that investing in ideas is very risky. But of course, again, I should say that investment in the population is really not risky. And people can be innovators. You see, people can innovate. If we consider the startup, if we consider the programming, if we consider the doers, you see, nowadays, we need a lot of doers. We need a lot of this leader. And of course, again, only people can be the change maker. I think technology cannot be the change maker. Only people can be the change maker, because I'm sure that if we consider the various countries, if we consider the Singapore, before 1965, what was the Singapore? Only the Lee Kuan. I think due to cause his investment of the people, I think overnight the Singapore is a model to the whole world. Is only the one of the key component, I should say, that the investment in the education sector. And definitely, as we are representing, IUAP is also representing the university. So university can play a very good role. And university is getting huge scope to develop the people. And as we are producing the best student and we are giving the proper education, and in our university, and we are also lucky enough, because last 10 to 12 years, we are focused on all of the new technology, new subject. I think a lot of new subject we already introduced. I think 10 years back, we introduced the multimedia and creative design technology. I think now, whatever happened, before completion of the education, all of our students get the job, because this was the new technology which we developed almost 10 years back. At the same time, you see that we developed another subject, also the 12 years back, the nutrition and food engineering. So after COVID-19, I think, every people are worried about their food habit, about this, this organic food. So nutrition and food engineering subject is also playing a very good role. I think students are getting the job before completion their education. So that is why I should say, again, the university can play a very change maker role if they adopt the new technology, right technology, see the foresighted vision, and bringing all of the competitive advantage of the world, what's going on. If we bring the inner strength, I think peoples have a lot of the inner strength. I think everybody has the inner strength. If you go to the people's mindset of the brain technology, what God has already gifted us is a beautiful supercomputer inside our body. So this is a very powerful tool. So if we bring the inner strength of the people through the education and invest more, I'm sure that any people can be the supercomputer. So that is why I should say that it is a right time to focus in the investment in the people. And people have different categories. I'm sure that everybody will agree with me. The people has a lot of categories of the people. Someone is programmer, someone is plumber, someone is driver, someone is thinker, someone is criticizer. So that means multiple category of the people are existing besides me, or just surrounding us. So it is our time also to find out as Rector Gulshan is mentioned, that find out the best people and set them to the best way, to the best places, so you can get the best result. And of course, we need to give to the training. We need to give the technology now, or not only training. I think this is the time to use the training and technology, both of them together. So anyway, it is very easy to achieve the goal if we invest to the people. And I myself is also love to say that last 22 years, I was very focused, because before 22 years, I was focused to earn the money and to expand my business and educational setup. But last 22 years, I was very focused to develop the people, invest to the people. And now I'm getting the very good results. So my experience is also must agree with all of your theme that, yes, the investing people should be the key component for nowadays for university, institute, and people like us. And thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khan. Thank you for that. And thank you also for putting population in perspective, because there have always been two schools, whether one should reduce or limit population, or take the population we have and derive the strengths we can from it, as you put it so eloquently. And of course, the fact that when a people is treated less fairly than it should, you have results which are very tangible. As you mentioned, the literacy rate in the erstwhile pre-Bangladesh of 10% and the current literacy rate of 70%. And I know Amitabh will join me in looking forward to Bangladesh's participation as a guest nation for the G20 summit later this year. Thank you so much, sir. Now, you also asked the question about where is the next technology coming from, and about how people are sometimes more important than technology. And in my years at the UN, I think the one area of technological development that really summed that up was sustainable energy. And I'm delighted to invite our next speaker, who began her UN career working on sustainable energy for all, Monica Fröhler, who is now the Chief Executive Officer of the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens based in Vienna. She has been in that position for 5 years now. It was a center established by the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and the former President of Austria, Heinz Fischer. And it's mandated really to empower youth and women as global citizens. So to give us a perspective on investing in these two important categories of human society, Monica.
Thank you so much, Ramu, and thank you, distinguished fellow speakers. It's a true honor and privilege to be here with you. Indeed, the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens was founded upon the legacy of S.G. Ban, and he probably will be remembered for worldwide for two major agreements, one of them being the Sustainable Development Goals and the other one being the Paris Climate Agreement. But let me start with an anecdote. It's always good to tell a story because it captures people's attention again. And there's this beautiful story of in 1962, Ban Ki-moon was a young, very thin, quite shy guy at that point in time. And he was actually coming from a very poor family. But the American Red Cross had an exchange program going that invited international students to come to the US to learn. And Ban Ki-moon was chosen out of many. His English capacity was, comme ci, comme ça, it was so-so, but nevertheless, he was chosen. And there stood this very slender 19-year-old on the south lawn of the White House. And he knew that he would meet JFK. And imagine he was wearing a suit that was paid for by his teachers, who had chipped in their spare coins to actually dress him up because he didn't own a suit at all. And it's a story of investing into a talent that was not yet to be foreseen to eventually become the Secretary General of the United Nations. But it was the belief that a young mind can actually really change the world. And he stood there on the South Lawn, and up came President Kennedy in all of his charming and compassionate way. And Ban Ki-moon admits in his memoirs that he only understood half of the speech, but what he captured and what he retained from the speech was that Kennedy said to the youngsters, who of you is ready to extend a hand in service? And for Ban Ki-moon, that was so impactful that he decided to become a civil servant, that he wanted to serve not only his country, but also the wider community of the globe. And this very spark that he got when he was in his late teens actually remained with him. And he wants to recreate that kind of situation for young change makers now, to give them the ignition to do something for the world. And he summarizes that as a global citizen mindset. He's pointing at the fact that we have too many Trumps, too many Orbans, too many Bolsonaros in this world, and he's really naming the names, wanting to push their nation first rather than thinking of the prosperity, people and planet as a humankind. And so he founded the Ban Ki-moon Center even after his time as Secretary General with this idea in mind, to help empower global change makers, young ones, to inspire them to live up to the full potential. So very much the investment that has been made in him, he wants to return multifold. And that's the beautiful task that we are currently doing at the Ban Ki-moon Center, We're investing literally with partly micro grants, but also with training and knowledge exchange and peer-to-peer learning in young people. And we do that by empowering them to implement so-called SDG micro projects. So we are talking people from Africa, Middle East, Latin America, Asia, who are selected and who are somewhere between 18 years and 32 years. And they're engaged in our fellowship programs, scholarship programs, mentorship programs, or in our trainings. And they do find an area within the SDGs and the Paris Climate Agreement that they are absolutely passionate about, but also one where they see a problem in their society. And they become active on it, find a solution, often with hardly any money at first. And there are the beautiful stories, for example, of Kat from Cambodia. She's a journalist and said there's too little written on sexuality, on menstruation, and on reproductive rights. And she did that on her vlog. And in the meantime, her SDG micro project, her video vlog, reached 2.5 million people. So we are very proud of Kat to be like a change maker of sorts. We are proud of Ruwimbo from Zimbabwe, who is helping pastoralists and smallholder farmers with her engineering capacity to look at weather forecasts and basically put agricultural crops and even livestock better placed to reap the benefits. And she does that with satellite technology and with mobile phone applications. Or another example would probably be Jibaya in Nigeria, who is fighting for property rights of women, Nigerian women, because they don't own the land. And she has opened this whole concept to several ladies to support them with legal advice. So it's these stellar change makers that we managed to gather together at the Ban Ki-moon Center. And with them, we have reached in the meantime over 770,000 people. We only exist for 5 years, but we are obviously very eager to scale these efforts, investing into individuals who really make the change. And to close off, I want to commend my previous speakers. I want to commend our distinguished Amitabh, who said that it is the ability to gain new knowledge that counts far more as the knowledge itself. And I think this is absolutely true for the new technologies that are coming up that the young change makers normally tend to use, be it the cryptocurrencies, the NFTs, the metaverse, be it AI applications, ChatGPT just being one of the key words. And then, of course, I also want to commend our dear Gulsum, who said that the right people are the ones who come up with new ways of living, doing, working, and being. And I agree, this is exactly what we want to instill with the SDG micro project. And also my previous speaker, Sabur Khan, who very much on the point said it takes an entrepreneurial mindset. You spot a challenge, you find a solution, and you do in a social entrepreneur set, in a mindset of social entrepreneurship, you are bettering humankind. And this is what global citizenship is all about. So Ramu, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address this very distinguished audience. And I'm curious to hear everyone else speak about how to invest into people in the best way.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Monica. And thank you for really personalizing the narrative by references to Mobimbo, Kat, and Jibaya, and bringing their work in their communities and their tremendous outreach, as you said, on social media as well, to really affect change. And I was very moved by the line that you shared between President Kennedy and Secretary General Ban, and the then President Kennedy and the to-be Secretary General Ban, who is prepared to extend a hand in service. And I wonder whether that phrase might not in some ways redefine education as we know it, because our next speaker is someone who is quite honest and maybe even proud about always having been last in his class. And he is an entrepreneur, an industry leader, and the chairman of the advisory council of the IUP. Sir Inan Dalali, who 40 years ago founded the multinational group of companies, the Helnan hotel chain with headquarters in Denmark. But that began, and I was thinking of that when Sabur Saab was speaking about the number of incarnations we have in our professional lives. Inan has been a hotel dishwasher before he moved to being an owner of a hotel. And he's also been really a champion of what we sometimes now call cross-cultural communications, of how someone from Egypt can feel comfortable in Northern Europe and hopefully the other way around as well. So that is another dimension and story of investment in people, which I'm at least looking forward to hearing. Inan?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ramo. It's wonderful to see that you still support IOP activities and events, because always we need you and your opinions, and too happy to see that it's ongoing daily. Also, thank you for Dr. Fernando Gracia about giving me this chance to be with those wonderful, well-educated and well-academic personalities. We speak about development of the people and the development of the new generations also through educations. We have forgotten one thing, as most of the young people today sitting in the cafes and playing chats and playing games away from the real life which we have or we have get or they get from the universities or schools or different aspects in the daily lives. About our problem about global citizen, it's so important for me to mention that Dr. Michael Adam, which all of us missing, he's not with us anymore today. He spoke with me a lot of things and tell me one time that you are representing the global citizen. I asked him, tell me, what is global citizen and why you say that? He told me that the global citizen is the person is belonging to the place where he is, in the time he is. Respect their traditions, their beliefs, and be a part of the development in this place. This is have given me and some words about really, I lived most of my life by this way, no matter where I am. We see different countries today that they have, and especially ministers for integrations. Integration is to be the basic of integrate the foreigner inside the society. It's so many mistakes because I cannot force the people to change their way of life and to give their back to where they come from. Doesn't matter. It is their traditions, their beliefs, and their cultures. So sometimes we have now about 30 years ago until today, we have in many countries integrations ministers, the integration and foreign people like refugees and all these kind of new inhabitants. And we have so many articles in the newspaper, in the media about integrations, and every day we're coming more far from each other and not belong to the new countries. I feel in my own experience, I have not turned my back to the country I came from, the country of civilizations, many beliefs, and many traditions, Egypt. I have learned and gone up with a lot of positions since 1977. Many of you was child at that time. At that time, 1977, I occupied a position of president of the largest hotel chain in the Scandinavian countries. Really, one of the things the foreigners do and the students do also, they made groups from their own countries When I come to Denmark or to United States or whatever where I am, I feel I belong to this society. I keep my tradition and my beliefs in my own home, even what I'm eating every day. But I belong to this country I came to and want to develop them like I've been developed. One of the things you speak about, I've spoken about human development and student development. I take India as a sample. Bangalore. What happened in Bangalore? It was the real, I visited Bangalore with the Vice Prime Minister of Denmark in the official visit, and I saw how they started to be the base for the technology development around the world. Some years ago, United States need thousands, 3,000 I think it was, people to help the Silicon Valley to develop their ITs, different IT sectors, and the future visions. The only country can give them this knowledge is one Bangalore, the city of Bangalore. Many of our tools today, even our phones, our IT development, chips, programs, is made in Bangalore. This was a real example by development of the people. Development of people, at that time, I know what happened when we asked it, why these steps have been done. It was before many of Indian people interest to develop the IT. So Indian government have gave that all IT tools can be imported without any taxes or any customs. By this way, the children, young people, got computer, got whatever it is, tools to develop it. And today, they lead the world. I have been, when you speak about my personal experience, about 2 years ago, they put some in the social media, in Facebook, some news about me. I cannot speak with them 2 years ago because I have had some operation in my throat. These 3 sites only in Facebook have gained about 90 million reviews during just a few months. It's mean when we give example of success of to show how a foreigner can do in each country, in the country he immigrate to, I think you give a lot of potential for the people that's educated in different universities. And some of them, when they be educated, they go and made a grocery shop or made sandwich shop, while they have a very nice education, but they don't believe in the country where they have been educated or living in this. They don't believe that they can achieve a lot of position. They can be a mayor, they can be in the parliament, they can be a minister. They don't believe in that because they feel they are discriminated. I think anybody is not discriminated. We are discriminate ourselves when we feel we are discriminated. We are discriminate ourselves by the way we are treat the new countries where we are belonging to. I'm very sad to see many of your students, for example, in the United States, you can find they are working after they finish the studies, some working in restaurants, some working in laundries, service, some work. Where your education? how to use your values from your own country and develop your own country, like I done, and develop the country also you are belonging to. Global citizen is a global issue, and the immigrants and the foreigner now, due to the current situation, is became more and more in each country. So some countries, they legalize the discrimination by way of other. So we don't want to give people this indication, because we hope that all of them have better education than me. I have better chances, better languages, and they can achieve a lot, much more than what I achieved during my life. Thank you, and thank you, Ramo, for the nice way you are always, and thanks for everybody to give me this chance.
Thank you so much, Sainam. I don't think we can allow your self-deprecation to go unchallenged, because you've been very modest in sharing the remarkable story of your life, but you've been very generous in sharing with us the two important lessons that you learned and you impart. One, the power of integration in its truest and most fulfilling sense, and also the capacity of human beings to adjust to any part of the world, to any occupation, as long as it is something that affords them their dignity. And that really, if I may paraphrase you, is the essence of global citizenship. And we would like for our next two speakers to look at that idea of global citizenship, if you will, through two components of education. One, education for peace and sustainable development, and the other, childhood education, how to educate people at their most formative years in a sense of making them global. And we begin with a speaker who is also my current boss at the moment as the Professor Emeritus and Permanent Observer of the University of Peace to the United Nations. Professor Narinder Kakkar actually, Anand, began his career with the UN in Egypt and has worked for more than half a century to programs related to development activities, to sustainable development and climate change. He's worked with the UNDP in Yemen, Guyana, Turkey, China, and the Maldives, and he was the UN resident representative in Mali before coming back to headquarters and taking up assignments with the International Union for the Conservation of Nature and with the University for Peace. So, Narinder Saab, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ramu. That was, I hope I deserve all that you said, but I must say I'm very impressed by the interventions we had today from very, very prominent professionals who've been involved in various aspects of investing in people. Now, firstly, greetings to everybody on this International Day of Education. It's quite, I think, appropriate that the theme of this day is investing in people by prioritizing education. I will speak on the basis of my practical experience with the UN Development Program, UNDP, and following my retirement with organizations like International Union for Conservation of Nature and the University of Peace. As you know, Ramu, I participated in the work of the Open Working Group on Sustainable Development Goals way back in 2013, 2014. The Open Working Group formulated the Sustainable Development Goals, 17, I would say 16 plus 1 Sustainable Development Goals, which became part of the Secretary General's agenda for 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Now, so investing in people, as we know, is defined as society's capacity to invest in people to ensure that they become functional, productive members of society. I think this is what we have to keep in mind. Also, it includes society's capacities to socialize, educate, and train individuals, as well as society's capacities to foster culture and instill that culture in its members. I am reminded here about the preamble to the Constitution of UNESCO, which states, since wars begin in the minds of men, it's in the minds of men that we have to construct the defenses of peace. This has been and should continue to be our main goal, to build peace in the minds of men and women. We need to erect, therefore, defenses of peace in the minds of men and women, which means we need to pursue disarmament of the mind in order to build peace. Because I think peace, existence of peace, is extremely important to develop human capacities. So we need to disarm our minds of the evil thoughts that result in conflicts. In order to achieve peace, we must put to use one of the greatest and most effective means of transforming man. And that's what we are talking about today, education. Through education, we can forge in our minds the thoughts and habits of peace, bring peace into our hearts and minds, and then into the world of politics. Now, role of education as investment in building human capacities and inculcating human values. Firstly, we must recognize that education is an imperative human right. It serves as one of the most important means to achieve a strengthened peace and ensure development. What is essential is to keep up with the technological advances and strengthen existing technological innovation capacities. It is important for educational institutions to not only provide high quality science and mathematics education, but also play the role of developing future peace builders by investing in human beings. The central importance of education, training, and research to build the foundations of peace and progress, and to reduce the prejudice and hatred on which violence, conflict, and terrorism is based. It was recognized by the General Assembly when it recommended the establishment of the University of Peace, which we've been fortunate, you and I are fortunate to be serving. But moving on, what are the interlinkages between education and development? And this is based on my work in development area and my participation in the development of Sustainable Development Goals. Economists have long recognized the multi-pronged returns on education since 1964, when Gary Becker, if you remember him, a Nobel laureate in economics, published his influential human capital treatise. Becker's work initiated the discussion of both private and social returns to human capital based on gender, race, and age. Now, as you know, Ramu, I served the UN Development Program in many countries. UNDP, as you know, provides development assistance based on the country's development needs, spanning over many sectors. UNDP being a multi-sectoral organization, so it looks at the development priorities and needs of the country that we are trying to help. I was once asked that if we were to devote all our resources allocated for the country to one sector, what would that sector be? And my answer was education, and education of the youth, and particularly the girl child. Now, why is it important to invest in girls' education? Both individuals and countries benefit from girls' education, there's no doubt. Better educated women tend to be more informed about nutrition and healthcare, for example, marry at a later stage, have fewer children, and their children are usually healthier should they choose to become mothers. So women are crucial partners in economic recovery, economic development recovery, and social cohesion and political legitimacy. And their participation in a mediation process that can help ensure that more and diverse members of the community become engaged in peacemaking. Women are often dynamic leaders of change, galvanizing women and men to get involved, claim their rights, strengthen their communities, even in protecting their planet. Their participation to fundamental democratic governance is important. And one name comes to mind of a very young female from Pakistan, Malala Yousafzai, who is now, as you know, she was attacked and she was disabled for a couple of years. She's a Pakistan education activist, and she is actually an international symbol of the fight for girls' education. So I think educating the girl child is extremely important. Now, education as an essential tool to attain the Sustainable Development Goals. Education must be prioritized to accelerate progress towards all the SDGs against the backdrop of a global recession, growing inequalities, and the climate crisis. Building on the global momentum generated by the UN Transforming Education last year, this year's International Day on Education therefore calls for maintaining strong political mobilization around education and chart the way to translate commitments and global initiatives into action. Perhaps the strongest and the most important link in this framework is between education and poverty, I think. People with more education have a greater capacity to pull themselves and their families out of poverty. This is because an increase in human capital investment increases labor productivity and thus lead to a greater earning potential. The relationship is reciprocal. That is, people with higher incomes are more likely to invest in their children's education. Hence, a link between education and inequality, which is SDG 10, as more educated people not only have the higher income, but also have a greater capacity to assert their rights. Education also can affect values and norms that shape the society. As such, education has a potential to achieve greater gender equality. And I could give many linkages between education and various SDGs, but I think we have a couple of more speakers to come. So I would try to conclude my intervention and say that because education is so tightly intertwined with other aspects of human development, solutions to educational deficiencies that haunt many countries often lie within a broader framework. The framework includes facilitating an inclusive social safety net, creating sound financial system, and building a resilient economy based on an adequate incentive reward structure. When it comes to building strong, stable democracies, education is the single most factor. It's potent counterweight that can help lift a country out of poverty and provide its citizens with a better future. As such, it's an indispensable source for advancing the goals of any nations. Now, I would like to conclude here by saying that if we have to satisfy our efforts under the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, which is leaving no one behind, it is necessary that we invest in people through education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Narendraji. Thank you, Dr. Kakkar, for that. And thank you for that quote from the preamble to the UNESCO Charter, because I remember, I think it was Julian Huxley, who was the Director General of UNESCO, who said very astutely, wars begin in the minds of men. Peace begins in the minds of children.
Yeah.
And I think that you mentioned the importance of socialization, something which is so instinctive to a child. And of course, you mentioned, in a sense, the most important child of all, the girl child. And in a sense, we've come full circle now in our program. We began at the political level, where the games are played by adults in the room, to universities, to students embarking upon life, to the entrepreneurs that Dr. Khan mentioned, to the experiences of integration and assimilation that Sir Inan brought in, Monica's instances of the young global citizens who are very much at home in the world, and of course, Gulshan's reference to the community within a university where everyone is part of that team. But all these teams we've been talking about have really been people of formative years, of minds that have been shaped and given a chance to flourish. So coming full circle, let's go to the mind and possibilities of a child, to the importance of childhood education and teaching a child about the world in which she lives and the United Nations that constitutes that world. And I'm delighted we have with us Elizabeth Schumann, who's both a member of Childhood Education International and the Committee for Teaching, or Committee on Teaching about the United Nations, CTON. Elizabeth? The mic, Elizabeth, sorry. Yeah.
That's always missing. Thank you, Ramu, and thank you, IAUP, for organizing this extremely important and valuable discussion. I thank you, all the panelists. I have learned so much. You all do amazing work, and please continue it. So as Ramu mentioned, I am the NGO representative to the United Nations of these two organizations. And in both of them have in common that they do invest in people. Childhood Education International was founded as the International Kindergarten Association back in 1892. So for more than 100 years, they have been investing in children. And yes, children are people too, please remember. So childhood education has developed solutions that lead to positive change in children's learning activities and in their lives. Children are hope for the future. Therefore, we invest in their education, in their health, in their well-being and safety, so they can develop optimally. We pay particular attention to most vulnerable children living in challenging circumstances, such as urban poor and refugee children. Quality education for children, of course, does not develop on its own. Qualified, educated, and motivated adults are the key. Childhood Education International sees education and learning as essential to the development of people of all ages and invests in adults by providing professional support to educators through a number of different programs. One of those is education diplomacy, which aims to teach skills of building partnerships and working collaboratively in the education sector to achieve and amplify outcomes. Our Center of Professional Learning provides programs and training for educators. For example, the Refugee Educator Academy, which is an online community of practice designed to support educators and to offer holistic learning opportunities for teachers involved in refugee displacement, migration, and resettlement communities. Investing in people, especially educators, is also what inspires the Committee on Teaching about the United Nations. We aim to engage teachers and help them bring knowledge about the many, many ways UN programs and initiatives affect our everyday lives into the classroom. Most people may know of the beautiful UN building on the east in New York, or lovely UN city in Vienna and other locations. And New Yorkers, of course, are keenly aware of the UN in September, when heads of state come for the General Assembly and traffic is absolutely gridlocked. But much more than that, no. Far fewer people are aware of the many issues and programs the UN is engaged in that have a direct impact on countries and individuals. I know the current, your panelists know all these things, but most people do not. Think of UNESCO for education. Think UNICEF, an enormous impact it has on children. Think of the World Health Organization, but also think of the International Postal Union, of the International Civil Aviation Organization. Without those, I don't know where we would be. So here at the Committee on Teaching about the United Nations, we try to help educators translate these UN initiatives, accomplishments, and potentials into their curricula through different programs. Our flagship program is our annual conference at the UN for educators. We had, unfortunately, 2 years of COVID pause, but we are planning a conference for this year. Each conference is focused on a particular topic, such as water, human rights, literacy, the environment, and conference participants, primarily teachers, but also students and others, hear directly from UN officials and other experts in the topic under discussion. We also invest a great deal of time to gathering relevant UN-related resource materials. And many UN agencies have resources that teachers can use. They just don't know it. So we try to translate and we can help teachers to create lesson plans incorporating UN activities. We have built an extensive network of educators who now have knowledge and understanding of connections between local and global affairs, future UN global citizens, and are sharing these with their students. Investing in people means prioritizing education, as we have heard, and they're essential for achieving the SDGs, which also means putting an end to the absolutely frightening numbers of children not in school, and the equally frightening number of adults who cannot read or write. How do we do this? Well, we all have a part to play. Let's continue our different ways of investing in people who can help us get there. And many of those are on this screen. Let's do it together as partners. After all, SDG 17 is partnerships. So thank you very much. Thank all those partners here. And please continue doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And thank you for that very evocative call to create, nurture, and sustain partnerships. Partnerships between teacher and student, teacher and teacher, student and student, and ultimately to go back again full circle between governments and their people, because I think all of you whom I've heard today have in one way or another talked about the responsibility not only of citizens, but of governments to their citizens in providing the very basic need that this day celebrates, the Day of Education. On behalf of my friends at the IUP, I would like to thank each one of you for taking the time, in many cases, as in the case of Dr. Khan, Bangladesh, at very late hours of the night, for having been with us. And for Gulshan also, it must be approaching the end of the evening and the dawn of night. And I would like to, and of course, Enan, who's based in Cairo at the moment. But thank you. And let me also extend a very special word of thanks to our wonderful team at CETIS IUP, Noé Chirona Hernandez, Ana Carlota Muniz, and Raul Cuevas, who have really put together the logistical, and more than logistical also, the intellectual framework, if you will, of this webinar, as they have so many others. We at IUP look forward to doing more such webinars under Fernando Leon Garcia's presidency. If any of you have ideas about subjects you feel these webinars could address or should address, please do let me know. All of you have my email address, and I think you also have the IUP address, and we look forward to continue to work together. So thank you very much, and Godspeed.
Okay. Thank you.